out to get me, you know?
Today we're going through a real one. Hello, everybody. Welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Kava Taharian.
And I'm Hannah Hillam, and I'm okay. I'm doing great.
We're doing great. It's a wonderful day. It's starting to get hot, so we decided to start recording as soon as possible before we sweat to death with these earmuffs on our ears. This is the thing that we have to go through to make sure that you people out there in the audience get to have the best podcast possible.
That and like hours of research. But yes, this is
so
what
much.
We do. Like just endless research, but good thing I like it.
Yes, I'm excited to get to your part 2 of your episode from last week. But before we get into it real quick, we're just going to say at the top of the show, I believe this is going to come out in July, I believe, this episode. So we're a couple of weeks away from Comic-Con from San Diego.
Yeah.
We can probably announce at this point, although at the time of the recording, I don't know if we're supposed to, but hopefully by the time this comes out, this is okay and we won't get in trouble. But we do have a panel. We have some excellent guests that are coming. It's going to be on Saturday at 1 p.m. in 28DE. Again, hopefully that does not change by the time this comes out. And if it does, you're just going to see something where like I'm saying one thing and then I'll have like a voiceover on my mouth, like changing the actual letter where it's like, actually, it's at 1 p.m. on Monday morning, blah, 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 blah.
And it's got like different recording quality.
Yes. But just so you guys know, if you're in San Diego, please come to the panel. It's called Escaping the Algorithm. It's about trying to find ways to build community outside the traditional big platforms. We're very excited. We have some fantastic guests. Why don't you tell them who we got?
So far, we have...
Nobody, apparently.
I go
we got
Blake.
Nobody. We got Lindsay Ellis. We got Patrick Ballesteros. We got
Lindsay Ellis. We got Daisy... I don't know what their last name is, but I think it's Noemi, right?
Noemi, okay. Yeah, from LA Zine Fest, I believe, is the organization that they're in charge of.
They're a photographer and organizer of zine fests and do-it-yourself art stuff in LA. And
our friend over in Artist Alley, Patrick Ballesteros, he's going to be there. He's awesome, very talented, always has these fantastic pieces that sell out immediately. And then we have one more guest that is basically confirmed, but not super confirmed. We'll see, TBD, but there'll be another person there. And of course, the two of us.
Yeah,
unfortunately for you guys,
Here's the thing you don't know yet is I'm not going to go. I'm going to... That was a joke. I'm coming.
Yeah, she'll be there. She'll be at Artist Alley right next to me, which also, one more announcement. We are going to be doing a scavenger hunt related to the podcast, which fans that we do not have right now, but the design will be finalized. We're going to be handing out these fans as we always do, or I should say as I always do, because it's my tradition to bring stuff. Yeah, to cool people off when you're out in line waiting for whatever activation you're going to be a part of. But on these fans, there will be a series of 10 things that you need to take pictures of that are all related to the podcast. Again, there'll be more information about that on our social media as we get closer to the date, but keep an eye out for those two things, the panel and the fans. Without further ado, though, Hannah, why don't you tell us part 2 and conclude the story? Yeah.
So if you remember last week,
I don't.
I wasn't really talking to you because I already knew the answer. I was talking to the people,
The people.
So for you,
the great
Kaveh,
populist.
all 12 people who listen. Just kidding. There's actually like 130 of you on the Discord. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. The Discord. Dude, the other night, where suddenly somebody, was it Nico or was it?
Who was the first person? Which I don't know.
Daisy.
Which specific...
No, not Daisy. Grace was like, "Hey, I'm trying to figure out Miles's song that he sang for you guys on the accordion," and she posts this video of herself playing the song on the accordion, and then another person comes in.
I believe it's Jazz. Yeah, she plays a song on the ukulele. And
suddenly everyone's posting videos of them playing the song.
And then Nico comes in with like the piano riff that he's just playing. I kind of wanted to take them all into an editing software and lay them on top of each other, but warmed our hearts.
It like warmed my heart to the point where I was uncomfortable. With how good it made me feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was like, you like me? Why?
Yeah, I was like, oh,
I will disappoint you.
Don't invest in this. But also, please invest in this. Go to our Patreon and give us, some money.
And join the Discord.
Please.
Anyway, yes. Thank you for remembering to do the shout out. But go ahead.
To catch you up, because I think you'll need it most, is last week I told the beginning of the story of the great heist of 1303, which was It started with Edward Longshanks, guy from Braveheart.
Braveheart, yeah.
He's waging war against the Scots. He's left a skeleton crew in London to keep things running. Many of them were monks and clerks. And I want to say clerks aren't necessarily religious secretaries. They're just kind of like, in general, secretaries. I made a mistake. He left 100,000 pounds, like the currency pounds, worth of treasure in London and took the rest of it up north so he could pay for his war because he loves killing and oppressing. And the Scots hate him. And so do the Welsh. Anyway.
And so does Mel Gibson.
And Mel Gibson, that's why he killed him.
Hates this man. He's just I'm going to murder you. Right. He wanted to.
The English
famously
won.
He got killed by Mel Gibson. Yeah.
The English famously won that battle. So anyway, he split up this treasure among a few areas around the country. And one of these areas was a section of Westminster Abbey known as the Chapter House. And it was like a meeting room for monks. And directly below it was what was known as the Pyx Chamber. Pyx Chamber. Okay. Pyx, which is like a Latin word for like little treasure boxes.
Pikes.
You're like Pyx Chamber.
Pyx Chamber.
That's our setting. Our main guy, wool merchant and former clerk of Westminster Abbey that I had just mentioned, Richard of Pudlicott, is pissed off at the king.
Dick Puddle is that I called him?
Dick Puddles.
Dick Puddle Cock is what I called him last week.
Dick Puddle Cock. Oh no. Okay.
That's right. Dick Puddle Cock.
So
yes,
Dick Puddlecott is this embittered man. He hates the king so much because the king rose taxes on his wool industry. And I found out
Yes. I remember now.
Remember last week I was like, I don't know how he escaped from that Belgian prison. He had to give them all his money in order to pay back the king's debt. So he had to pay back the king's debt.
He had to front the money for that guy.
Yes,
for that guy.
And
what a dick! Oh, I'd be so pissed.
He was rogue with how angry he was. He was like, I don't have anything to lose, and so he
fully
comes back
justified.
He goes back to England and he tries to sue the king, and the king is like, I don't like
Good
swats
luck.
him away like a fly.
Yeah.
Like what do you? I'm too busy murdering Celts.
Mel Gibson. I don't have time for this. Yeah.
There's this guy up here who's absolutely insane and claims he's from a place called America.
Australia, I believe, actually is where he's from originally.
Australian?
You didn't know this?
I can't explain why, but that was like the final straw for me. Like, I don't.
I like how Mel Gibson being Australian is what ruined your day.
It wasn't everything else that's happened today. It's fine that he's Australian. I just didn't know. I just feel like I should have known.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry to have just thrown that in there in the middle of this conversation.
I don't think I can. Hold on. I need to close my eyes to trick my body into thinking it's safe. From Mel Gibson, the Australian. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So
he's tried to sue the king, but he couldn't because the king is off killing Scots.
Yes. He is back in London just raging like I am right now for no. But he has a reason. That's the thing. He has a complete normal reason. And he's completely broke. He's like scrounging for jobs and money because remember, everyone's also broke because the king is like, I need all of your money, and every industry is suffering and everyone is so pissed off at the king. So that's Richard, and he's hanging out. And remember, the King of England is gone, and so there's like way lax, like it's all lax. Like you know
what's funny is it's Robin Hood essentially. It's like almost the same premise.
It's you'll definitely see.
Oh, okay. All right, continue.
More. He is a little bit like just an angry Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Figure.
It's literally, but I mean that was the same thing where like the king was off on his crusade, basically taxing everybody to death so he can go with his lover, the king of France, and then go try and kill Saracens, and then it was a weird like
King John.
Yeah. So, but it's essentially the same premise, except in that one that was about religious war. This is about, I guess, land ethnic war. I don't know what you would call it.
Here's what it was. Richard is not Richard. They're all named Richard or Edward or
Longshanks.
Dick. Or,
Eddie.
Edward, King Edward I, Longshanks.
Yeah.
He's rare in that he never lost any land. But he was also war hungry. So he thought the Celts, because remember, they're Anglo-Norman in England, and then there's Celts in Wales and Scotland. And he was like, that land is pretty good. I'd like it.
Yeah.
And the Scots and the Welsh are giving him a gigantic headache. They will not stop, like, just prodding and poking and taking little bits of land. And so he finally just like, bam. That's why he's called the Hammer of the Scots. He had already quelled Wales, took the spirit out of them. And then he was doing it to the Scots too. So it was mostly like, he was like, stop rebelling.
Yeah.
Like, fine. I'm going all out. I'm flattening you. That's the kind of war. And then he was also in France and also in the Holy Land. So it was still some religious war. And he was...
so he was all over the place too. I didn't realize that he had gone that far.
Barely in England. He was away.
He was an absent father. He went out for cigarettes and never came back.
He went out to steal a bunch of holy relics and never came back. Classic. Dad, come back.
Papa was a rolling stone, but the king was a rolling stone. Meanwhile, Richard is angry, justifiably.
Dick is angry, and he's like, and everyone's just, all these monks are drunk and kind of just doing what they want because, again, everyone's a little pissed at the king, and there is like a skeleton government, so like there isn't overwatch, like there aren't overseers, no one's keeping track or tabs, so these monks are like, we're gonna get day drunk and go hang out with sex workers at night. So. By the way, the fact that the treasure was being guarded by drunk monks just kind of blows my mind. I like, if I were the king, I wouldn't leave the treasure in a church with drunk monks.
I don't know. I guess at that point, there's a certain level of arrogance where you're like, who would dare even steal from me in the first place?
That's true.
They know that I'll just chop their heads off.
I'll kill all of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, last I left off, Richard had just stolen some silver plates from Westminster Abbey and kind of got a high. He was like, that was great. And I was able to get money and pawn this. And so
he went and sold it on eBay.
A few more times.
Yes.
He sold it on eBay, which is just at the bay. He just threw it in the ocean. He's like, here's the thing. I used to work here. I know there's way more treasure here. I need to steal that treasure because I can't keep stealing just these little bits and pieces. I need more because I'm broke. And so he runs out of money around Christmas. And that's when he's like, gotta assemble. I gotta assemble my crew. So before we get into the actual crew, I got to lay out his original plan. Because here's the thing. Okay. We have Richard's account of this, but we don't have anybody else's account of this. Because Richard is awesome and didn't name any of his conspirators.
Nice.
None. He didn't say a word. And so
you know why? Because snitches get stitches. That's why.
Yeah, because snitches
he's like
get
the
stitches.
MacDre of his time. He just would not talk.
He's been betrayed by the king. He would never betray his friends. What did you just say?
It was a reference to Mac Dre. He was a very famous rapper in the East Bay. He wrote a track. It was called Don't Ask Me Shit. Yeah. Oh. Ding, ding, ding. Anyway, look it up. It's East Bay. Okay. It's very famous in the East Bay of San Francisco that he didn't say shit and he went to jail for it. Anyway, that's besides the point. Continue.
Okay. Yes, that's it. That's Richard. That's Dick. So Richard is like, so how am I even going to do this? If I sneak in, I can't get past any of the monks because they'll see me, even though they are drunk. There's no windows or doorways that go into this underground place, and the only entrance into the chamber is a door that goes to the upstairs. So you have to go in through multiple areas before going down into the crypt, and it's locked. So he starts thinking, all right, I gotta make a hole in the wall. That's what I gotta do, and I gotta start now. And so he starts planning on, I need to start chiseling a hole in this wall. But then he realizes there's no cover. There's only a graveyard, and he's like, I can hide behind a gravestone.
Yes, that's right.
There's a graveyard right up against the wall, and so he decides to go buy a bunch of seeds.
Okay.
And he covers the ground with seeds, plants a bunch of seeds, and waits for grass to grow 5 feet tall.
Oh my God!
So, yeah.
How long does that take?
Great, you know how weeds are. Grass it was hemp.
I'm an apartment kid. I have no idea. Actually, no.
Okay. Couple rains and they'll get tall.
Couple rains, like a couple. So it's like a few months. It's not like years or anything.
Oh no.
Okay.
Hemp grass grows pretty quickly. And so while this grass is growing, he goes and starts assembling his crew. And so because he doesn't know anything about masonry or has no tools, he's like, I'm gonna go talk to my friend, and this friend's name is John of St. Albans. And this dude lived in the area. He knows Richard. Richard knows him. They trust each other. And apparently he's one of the best masons around.
Nice.
And he goes to him and he's like, hey, John, can you give me any tips on digging through a 12-inch wall? And John's like, sure, yeah. Why?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to steal a bunch of treasure and you can have some. So he's got John of St. Albans on board. And this guy starts giving Richard a bunch of good tools.
Cool.
And Richard takes 3 months to dig a hole through this wall. So every night he goes and hides in the grass and chisels his way a little more into this.
He's literally Andy Dufresne. That's what he is.
Yes, 100, but like the opposite way. And
right, it's breaking into the prison instead of out of it. Yeah.
He probably smells terrible because the streets are full of piss and poo.
So he swam through the river of shit and then then dug the hole in the reverse.
Exactly.
It's reverse
all
Andy
reverse.
Dufresne. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. While he's doing this digging for 3 months, he also goes around and starts to figure out who else he needs. He needs a safe house because if he gets this treasure, he's going to take it somewhere, you know?
Right. You got to store it.
And he has a friend who he's like, maybe this guy will be into it. And this guy is named William. And he is the deputy keeper of the keys for a nearby jail. So again with the jail, he's like, this is genius. I'll hide in a jail. No one will know. No one will notice. So he goes to William and he's like, Willie.
No. I feel like this is going to go terribly wrong now.
A lot of things are going to go wrong. But look, this is why if you're blinded with rage, don't plan a heist.
Or don't have your exit strategy be to literally go into jail, I can imagine.
Into a jail.
This is probably, into a jail. I feel like that's the thing that you're trying to avoid.
Right. But that's like hiding in plain sight.
Literally the one place you're not supposed to go, but sure.
Don't worry. He'll end up in a jail. So we got William the jailer. And he is like, oh, I'm 100% in. For sure I'll do this. He's like gung-ho.
Bill Jails, all about it.
And then Billy Jails.
He's singing Piano Man as he's waiting for him to show up.
What? Yeah, beautiful imagery. We should put that in the movie that Mel Gibson's going to be in.
Who is Australian.
I'm not okay with that. Like, why? Did they just not claim him? I never heard it. Do they not care about him? I wouldn't claim him. He's insane.
He was the original Mad Max, don't forget.
You're right.
Doesn't get much more Australian than that.
I don't.
Anyway, so Bill Jail is like, he's on board. He's like, you can just get arrested after you steal all the money from the king.
Or I think it was more like, come hide it in my like area of where I live here. So
that I only am the only person with the key. Got it.
Yeah. So these guys were actually tight. They were friends. So he trusted him a lot. Next, he was like, okay, hold on. I don't actually know how to do this. I don't know how to like, I don't know how to fence these items. I don't know how to launder money. I don't know how to. That's
the big problem is when you get a big heist is what do you actually do with that much cash? Because everyone's looking for it.
And these things are like not like common pieces. It's like, here's a crown I stole from a king.
Fell off the back of a truck. Like, you can't just sell it in a Best Buy parking lot. You got to like boil it down and like turn it into something else.
Yeah. You can't, I mean, you could. People do melt crowns down. But like, he was like, so I don't actually know how to, like, what do I do after? And so I don't know how he meets this next guy, but the next person he finds is kind of like a mentor because he's like, I need an old timer who's done this before. And he
gotta have your old timer.
You have to. The one who comes out for the last job of his career, you know, comes out of retirement. And this dude is named John Rippingdale. And these names are insane. So
Rippingdale?
Yeah.
Okay.
John Rippingdale. And John Rippingdale is also known as the chaplain because he is known to rob churches, and that's about it. So this guy,
bro as shit.
He that's his forte, robbing churches. Because churches back then were like filled with gold.
Yeah.
Because
they were extorting money from people. Basically.
Right, because they were stealing. Because just like Jesus, they were stealing gold from all the poor people. So he was this John Rippingdale, the chaplain. He was around town.
That's an awesome name. Sorry, John Rippingdale, right? The chaplain is
right.
Chef's kiss.
So, right? So there's two Johns. So I'll say the Mason and the chaplain, or and John Ribald, whatever. And this guy,
all these guys are going to need nicknames, right? You got Old Keys, you got the Mason, Old Keys,
John the Mason,
John the Mason, and John the Chaplain. Oh, Charlie Chaplin,
and just Chaplain.
Yeah, we can call him the Tramp because he's like a chaplain.
Yeah, I'm going to call him Chet the Chaplain because that is his hard-earned nickname. And yeah, this story is 700 years old, and I love it. He's just a skeleton at this point, but I gotta honor that skeleton.
Yeah.
Why was that skeleton alive? Okay.
So the Tramp. The Tramp comes in as the mentor.
And we don't know very much about him. Like, if you Google him, there's literally nothing. And I do want to say, before I continue, I skipped an entire part.
Okay. Let's go back. It's non-sequential storytelling. This is like a Tarantino movie. It's fine. Go.
Great. Oh, my note was that this area, so I went into a ton of insane research because I have manic energy at all times.
Because you were just existing, that's all.
This is who I am, yeah. And I read so many old dumb books, and not even full books, just skimmed them. I skimmed one called about medieval economics that almost made me want to lobotomize myself. I was like,
yeah.
Ugh. And then I read one from 1915 and one from 1944 about this whole thing. And I could not find anything besides like the vague story. I did read a ton of this book called Chapters in the Administrative History of Medieval England Part II. And that did bring me some
That's
answers.
one to wake you up.
Yeah, I actually really liked it.
Oh, okay.
I was surprised.
Riveting. Okay.
But then my personal research dried up, and so I turned to YouTube, couldn't find anything there because I wanted to know more about its accomplices. Yeah. And finally I turned to other podcasts. And I am this next part, I'm going to put this back at the beginning. This next part about the accomplices, a lot of it comes from their research of these other podcasts. One of them I listen to a lot, History of England, and he's very, very into well-sourced research, and so I do trust it. So, I don't know where they got that research. I think they must have gone to like some actual library in England.
Yeah, actual books, like a bunch of nerds.
Like a bunch of dorks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got those
My
three,
source
right?
is a TikTok video. Yes, thank you. Continue.
A 14-year-old. So yeah, we got the three accomplices. And sadly, the rest of his accomplices are lost to history because our boy refused to rat them out. But most likely, there were many others. They think that there was some guards that were paid off and monks, the actual monks that lived and worked in the abbey. Because remember, they're a bunch of degenerates at this point.
They're drunk, yeah.
And also women. And here's the thing. Women are involved in almost every aspect of history, but they get erased, including crimes. And yeah, have you ever heard of women?
This is the first time hearing about this.
No, I know. It's weird. I know you don't see them like when you're walking around and stuff. No, I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm talking to myself right now, actually.
Yo, it's just you. None of this is real. So he also had some women of ill repute, aka sex workers, who, sorry, but like, for sure I'd end up doing that, right? Everyone would.
Ill repute, yes.
I would immediately want to help. If someone was like, I'm going to give you money and all you have to do is help me with this, I'd be like, absolutely.
This is like an Agatha Christie novel where it's like, it's not a matter of who did it. It's more like who didn't do this is really the question. Who did not include themselves in it.
Are so right. Because you'll see at the end how many people seem to have literal gold in their pockets. So yeah, this angry wool merchant goes into a brothel, sort of a joke, and is like, I'll give you money, help me. And so there's also women involved too. So, people who work in the brothels. And some sources say he had a boatman waiting on the Thames. Some say he was alone. He claims nobody helped him. And so here is his actual confession from his mouth.
Okay.
So it's April 24th, 1303. He's planted all those seeds, literal seeds. He's about to break through the last little part of the wall. In the dead of night, our boy Dick has finally penetrated the wall of the chamber. According to him,
it's become a glory hole of sorts.
It's a glory hole big enough for a person to fit through. And according to him, he slides down into this Pix chamber. I'm not going to stop. and was sort of like struck dumb by all the treasure, because this room is stacked with it, like beyond your wildest dreams. Just jewels, like money,
Smaug or like Scrooge McDuck level.
Exactly, where you could dive into the money.
Yeah.
You know, stacks of gold bullion, the actual crown jewels that he just left behind, the king did, and just are chilling in there. The crown jewels of countries they've conquered, such as like the last Llewellyn, the last Prince of Wales. They took his crown. It's just sitting in there. Holy relics, gold items, silver and gold crucifixes, armor, decorative and practical, swords, functional and decorative. One sword was said to be legendary. Like, anyway, it was like the scene in Aladdin where he's like in that tiger, you know, goes in the tiger. So Richard is just like,
the Cave of Wonders, I believe, is what you're thinking of. But
this is not in the tiger. It's called
not inside Raja the cat, not inside Raja, Jasmine's pet tiger, but inside the Cave of Wonders.
When they go inside the tiger,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and he's not supposed to touch anything, and then
and he does.
Continue. Yeah.
Well, Richard
Abu
touches
does.
everything.
Technically, he doesn't. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. So Richard is like, this is awesome. Like 3 months of digging through a wall, and he is just basking in it. And he decides that he's going to spend some time in here because nobody knows where he is. And nobody knows
literally
about
Borat,
it.
Where he's just like, king in the castle, king in the castle. Look at me. I have a chair.
Yes. Look, we don't know what he did in there, but he was in there for 2 days. So
just cosplaying as a king.
Just seriously, if I were him, I'd be like, and I'm the king. So he's in there for 2 days. We don't really know what he did because he didn't go into that. But he said he just wanted to be around all the gold. But
can't blame him.
No, imagine just like laying down on a bed of like looted gold.
I've always wanted to Scrooge McDuck. I've always wanted to do that since I was a little kid.
I mean, there's swords in this one, but hey,
it's a little painful. But
the risk is more fun.
If I got stabbed to death from swimming in a giant pile of gold and then there was an ancient like Arthurian sword that like stabbed me in the face, I feel like that's a pretty good way to go.
That's a dope way to go.
I'd be okay with that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So he claims he just enjoys basking in it, but more than likely he was organizing. So Richard here's one sense, area where he was smart, is that he carefully picked pieces from all around the area, from all around the chamber. So it didn't even look like it had been touched.
Smart.
There was he completely left the crown jewels, any of the swords. No
trace behind. Yeah.
He just took small to medium pieces that had been kind of shoved to the corner or like underneath other things. And so he was able to very carefully extract what he needed. And it ended up being like 4 bags worth, like a lot, like big, like I keep picturing like a robber's sack, you know?
Yeah. Like with the dollar sign on the outside of it, and he's like wearing the black
and he's
thing around his...
like
Again,
this.
he just looks like a Beagle Boy from Scrooge McDuck. From DuckTales.
Here's the twist is that everybody in this story is ducks.
Listen, he's Scottish too, don't forget. Scrooge McDuck is. Yeah.
I bet he Look, I can't handle you telling me. I can't handle you telling me about anyone else's nationalities on this podcast. I didn't know he was Scottish until I just pretended I knew, and then it hit me.
Listen, I just want to highlight this idea that he was very smart about how he robbed. He didn't just take everything like willy-nilly and just leave it dry and clean. He made it in a way where it kind of reminds me of those viral videos that they show of how people at a pizza place will like steal pizza because they'll cut out like a strip in the middle. Have you seen this?
No.
So they'll cut the pizza like, normally you cut it directly in half, but they'll do sort of like a strip in the middle of it that they remove. And then they put the 2 pieces together and it looks like it's like a full pizza. And then they'll cut those into the triangle. Whoa. So it's sort of like the equivalent of that, but with piles of gold.
But with piles of treasure. Yeah. He slowly over the next day starts lifting these bags or baskets full of treasure out and hiding them in that tall grass he planted. And again, he says he was alone. More than likely he had people coming and getting them.
Had to have somebody, taking them out.
He had to have.
Like this is straight Robin Hood from the cartoon where the Prince John is sleeping and then they're just like taking out all the satchels and then they're moving them with the rope across the entire kingdom.
Exactly. Like I like one of the podcasts I listened to called Cloak and Dagger. they were saying that they could easily see it being something like a line of people, like you just pass it along the line. And they're in a cemetery, so it would be easy to duck behind tombstones. And kind of get out of there scot-free. I mean, I don't know, I can't be sure, but there's no way he did this alone. So he was like,
it's not possible.
I carried one of these bags by myself to the prison, went back and got another, and did that over and over. All in one night, or all in one day cycle.
Yeah.
When he finally got all of them into the prison, here's where it goes blurry, because we don't really know how it all went down. But nobody noticed they were gone. Nobody. Everyone was drunk. Everyone was doing their thing. No one was looking. No one even noticed the hole in the wall. Like, nobody cleaned up the grass. No one cared. So let's fast forward to June.
Listen, it comes back to the gardeners like we were talking about at the beginning of this episode.
They should have been mowing the lawn.
If Longshanks had hired gardeners like the people in your neighborhood, this never would have happened. He never would have been robbed blind.
What an idiot. Nobody noticed, and Richard was like, perfect. Even though he dropped a bunch of it on the way out. Like, this dude left a trail of gold. No one went in the graveyard enough to notice it, or if they did, they were in on it, and they were going and picking it up still. So so fast forward to June, right? This is 2 months later, and suddenly people are starting to find gold in their fishing nets, and they're like, why did I find a chalice in here with the fish I just caught? Why is there a sword? This
the
whole
hell are these fish eating?
Why? Yeah, this fish is now the king.
Yeah.
Let's crown it. So people, like regular people, are like, what's with all the money? There's all this foreign money, because he had a bunch of foreign money in there, because he took loans, and people started having like Belgian money and French money and like little crowns and goblets and cups and just like stuff that's not like, that looks weird. If you're like a peasant holding a gold cup, it'd be like, like, where'd you find that? It's the weirdest
cereal surprise I've ever seen in my life.
Oh. But cool, they upped their price. Yeah, it's like some peasant being like,
Kinder's going all out with their chocolates this year.
Just an entire gold goblet, man. Anyway, so pawn shops start getting flooded with items, and they're all coming from different people. And so some of these pawn shops are like, kind of see the writing on the wall, and they're like, this is not good. We need to sell these fast. And so that's the mistake. Next mistake. That if I were a pawn shop owner, I'd be like, I'm putting this in the back for a little bit, or whatever. So suddenly all these pawn shop people are like, everyone buy this gold, trying to sell it to nobles. And they're like,
dumb.
No one, so dumb. They're like,
just
no one's
leave.
buying this.
Go to France and sell it, or go to
Cash
Belgium.
Out.
Yeah.
Go anywhere. So they start like trying to sell it to like nobles and barons and lords and ladies. And that's when the upper class is like, hold on, where's this coming from? And
idiots.
So dumb. So this is June, and remember, Edward's up there being a dick to the Scots, and he's like, a messenger shows up, and he's like, hey King Edward, a ton of treasure has been showing up that looks a lot like your treasure all around London. And he's like, I don't have time for this, like pissed. He doesn't even go back to London. He's like, I don't know, send some people, go figure it out. And he sends some like trusted advisors or whatever. And by then in London, they had found the hole in the wall, and then they knew. And so these monks that were there were like, yeah, we'll do an inventory. And they find out what's missing, and it's about 100,000 pounds worth of things that they stole.
That's interesting that they had actually, what's the word I'm thinking of? They had actually taken inventory of everything.
Oh, yeah.
So like they actually knew how much was in there exactly.
Edward was extremely money efficient. He was like modern day capitalist, like honestly, like a imperial.
Extremely money like efficient, but not like security efficient, essentially, which is what's interesting.
Yeah. So
why would you go through all of that to like count every single cent and then have no interest in taking care of it?
Well, I think that he trusted, because at that
like
point,
I said earlier,
he trusted the religion. Like there was no.
God was on his side, kind of thing.
Yeah,
almost.
God was on his side. God chose him to be king. He can trust these monks. These, the abbot at the time was really trustworthy and shrewd and on it. And so I think Edward was like, oh yeah, it's fine. And I won't be up here for long, but he was up there for like 6 years. So I think like everyone kind of had trust for these like religious figures.
Yeah.
And by the time all this gold starts showing up all over London, they get back down there. Edward's like guys come and they start doing a search. So they're searching all the pubs and the brothels, and they find so much treasure in these brothels. They find so much treasure.
The first place they all go. I love it.
Monks. They find treasure with the monks. I mean, when I say like it flooded London, it was everywhere. They tried to do it all at once. It was not a good idea. People start talking.
Sad.
People start talking. They're like, oh, well, yeah, I heard I got this. You know how it goes. You don't want to get in trouble, so you rat someone out. And over time, they find Richard. And they find his accomplices. And they also arrest 40 monks. So,
dear Lord.
It turns out
they're all in on it.
All the monks were in on it. Probably even more. Like even the abbot. They think that maybe even the abbot was in on it. It goes all the way to the top. And so they get ratted out. They get arrested. They get put in prison for real now. And Edward's like, I'm going to deal with them when I'm done with Scotland. And they sit in prison for about 2 years. All of them.
Wow.
Before Richard comes back to London. His name's not Richard. His name's Edward.
Edward.
King
Real
Edward.
Quick,
yeah.
Sorry, where did you, maybe I spaced out when you explained this, or maybe you forgot to mention.
I don't know.
Why are people just throwing treasures into the river or into the bay or something? How are those fish?
They think it's because when they were escaping with the treasure, they just dropped a bunch of it.
Okay, so that's it. So was it close to the water? Did you explain this, or did you did? I'm sorry, I'm done. Ignore me.
Well, the Thames is always within like, it's like a half mile maybe from the water, I want to say. So they probably walked it down to a boat and took the boat to Fleet Prison or something, they think. Or
I see. Okay.
Somehow these things, or people panicked. Another reason is like they panicked.
And just tossed it.
I can't have this. Yeah. And tossed it in. And
it's like when the cops show up and you have drugs on your person. So you just got to throw it out the window.
Yeah, out the window. So I think a lot of people tossed things into the river, which.
Okay.
Do you follow any mudlarking accounts?
I don't even know what mudlarking is, but I can imagine it's about digging stuff up from the mud.
Yeah, it's
okay. It's like
I don't want
to
sound just like everyone expects me to sound, but when I retire, I'm just going to go dig things out of the river.
Sure, that sounds completely consistent with everything else you've said.
So mudlarkers are these people, modern day people who go to the River Thames and just like pull stuff out, and they're always finding like gold coins and stuff. So I'm sure
one of these things showed up there somehow. Yeah,
washing up. Everyone's kind of in a panic, and I can imagine they're like, oh, they're arresting people, start throwing this stuff in the river, which was like London's dumping ground. Everything got thrown in that river. Anyway, 2 years later, Edward comes back down, and he's like, you know what? I need these monks on my side again, because he realized there's so much corruption down here. I left, and everyone went nuts. And so he orders the rest of the monks, because they had just slowly been like being questioned and let out, except for like 10 of them. And Richard was like, no, Edward, my God. English names, man. Have some creativity. Do anything but Richard or Edward or John. Edward is like, yeah, just let the monks out. Like,
just let them out. It's fine.
They're whatever. Because they were like, we didn't do it. And Dick was like, I was alone, and he stood by that statement until they hung him. They hanged him, they executed him, and he kept his mouth shut about anyone else who was involved. And they think he probably saved like dozens of people from the gallows.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a few of his other conspirators were also hanged, and I don't know which ones, because of course I couldn't find any books on it.
The Tramp.
Oh yeah.
Old Johnny Keys. Or was it Billy Keys? Billy Keys, yeah. Billy Keys, the Tramp, and then John
Mason.
Blacksmith. What was he? Mason, yeah.
Mason.
Johnny Mace. Billy Keys.
Billy Keys.
And the Tramp.
The Tramp. What was? Yeah,
the Tramp was the chaplain. Yeah, remember he was the chaplain, so he's the Tramp. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Billy Keys. I like Billy Keys because he also plays keyboard in the band.
He does, and this is a band, and they perform. Yeah. Oh my, we should do that. Let's start a band.
Listen, they're already doing it on the Discord.
The 1303 Heist. Oh, they are. You're right. 500 open bands.
500 open bands.
Poor Richard dies, but a lot of the jewels and the stuff, they never show up. So some people actually got away with it, and some people got away with the treasure. And Edward is furious. He's so pissed off.
Good.
And honestly, like, if I were Richard, I'd be so proud of myself that I pissed the king off as much as he pissed me off.
To no degree, yeah.
And that I stole 1 year's worth of tax collection. That's how much it equaled.
That's awesome.
Gave it out to every poor person around me.
Amazing.
So he anyway, he's kind of my hero. I love Richard. He's, Anyway, Edward's like, okay, I need to consolidate my treasury. So we're going to put all of this in the Tower of London and guard it with guards. Yeah. And that's why we have the Tower of London being the place where literally everything is kept, even to this day.
Okay.
Because of this robbery.
That's really cool.
So.
I mean, the robbery is really cool. Not the Tower of London, saving money from the people that you stole the money from. That sucks.
Right.
But
yeah.
I don't like that part of it.
that's what kings do. So within 50 years, there's going to be the peasants' revolt because everyone's so angry at the king. And this kind of set it off, all these taxes, and people are realizing we hate these guys. The plague is going to reset the social structure. And by the end of the 1400s, they're going to have a parliament. And that is when they establish parliament. And then it just becomes 300 more years of parliament and the king butting heads until they pretty much take all his power away when they behead him. Anyway, if you remember, there's that old door on Westminster Abbey.
I do.
With the skin on it.
Yes.
Sadly, it is cow skin. But for about 500 years, people believed that it was Richard of Pudlicot's skin. Because before they hung him, they flayed him. And, they took that skin right off. I mean, if I were, the king, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to put your skin on a door. Don't tell them it's a cow, but tell them it's Richard. But they did DNA testing in 2005 or something. And they're like, sorry, guys, it's cow. And everyone's like, darn.
Lame.
But for a long time there, everyone believed it was Richard's, Dick Pudlicot's skin on that door. And if you're in London, you can go see that door. That's it. And you can also go see the chamber where they've kept all the treasure. It's free. It's free to enter. You don't have to pay.
It's very cool.
Anyway, that's the great heist of 1303.
Fantastic. I loved it.
Yep.
Just a little bit of a PSA here. If you do steal from the king and you get a bunch of crowns and jewels, the reason that they call it money laundering is that you need to take your money and you need to launder it through something else. Here's the thing that people forget. You're going to pay a fee. That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's how they make their money.
Well, not even if you make your money, but I'm saying if you steal $1 million, you're not going to walk away with $1 million. You're going to have to lose some money in order to have that money come out the other end clean. So if you're lucky, maybe it's through a trusted process. So in this case, to anybody listening in the 1300s, take those jewels and that money, hire a ship, go into mainland Europe, sell it to a bunch of people who have no idea what's going on, who are not interested in any of it, who are willing to pay a high premium, lie to them about where you got it. Take that money. It's going to cost you for the ship and whatever. You're going to have a per diem. You're going to have
whatever.
Night hotel expenses. At the end of the day, you might walk away with, let's say, $700,000-$800,000. So you've lost $200,000. However, but that money is now clean. And if anyone comes to ask you, you don't have to show them. You're just like, yeah, whatever. I have $800,000. I don't know. I just did work for a long time.
Business.
I don't have any jewels. And then you take that money and you go somewhere else.
Right. And you know what? I'm pretty sure a lot of people did that. The ones that they never traced.
They got away,
I think there are people who were like, I'm going to a port. Even if I can't leave the country, I'm going to go sell this to some, because they're, at this point, we're trading with, people from all over the world. People don't realize that, but people from Asia and the Middle East were coming up and trading with England. And easy to just be like, hey, can I come?
Sold it to some Chinese trader or something that came over here or whatever, right?
Yep.
Or you take it and you get a bunch of whatever. It's the Silk Road. You get a bunch of silk.
Yeah.
And then you have the asset and then you sell that and then that's how you make your money. Yes.
Or just, you get involved in some other stuff that's above ground. Easy.
Listen, neither of us are criminals, but we could do it.
Don't pawn
if we really wanted. Yeah. Don't just straight pawn it. You got to hold on to it. It's an investment. I hate to see somebody like Richard get killed because they didn't do that correctly. And don't stay in the same town that you stole from. That's a bad idea.
Seriously. Go.
Just leave.
I can see how it's like, yeah, screw the king. We're going to spend this money. And, when you're drunk, you don't make the best money decisions.
True.
I have to remind you that a lot of these monks were drunk. Anyway.
Fantastic.
Thanks for your PSA.
Thank you for your story. It was wonderful. I loved it.
Yeah, thanks. Of course.
Huge fan. This guy is another one of our friends to now add to like our wall of heroes of people that we like that are awesome
Tom
who did
Blood,
cool stuff. Tom Blood. That's
Dick
it.
Pudleycock. All
Dick
these
Pudleycock,
names are
people
absurd.
Who existed in episodes more than 2 episodes ago that I've now forgotten because I have the memory of a fish.
With which we said the names at one point.
We did.
I don't know.
We salute you. Salute.
I'm gonna go pat that door and pretend it's actually his skin and say thanks, Dick.
Listen, DNA tests have been known to be inconclusive, so I'm hoping that in this case it's basically the same thing where they're like, actually somebody who did the DNA test at the lab accidentally like dropped cow blood into
cow
this.
In. Oh yeah.
It was bring your cow to work day.
Bring your cow to work day. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Everything that day came back as cow.
Hello, friends. Would you like to help Hannah and I? All you have to do is go to nebula.tv/500opentabs and sign up for Nebula, where they have exclusives like David Lean Queer Subtext by Maggie Mayfish. In this video, Maggie explores the work of David Lean, who wasn't gay himself, but wove queer themes throughout his filmography. From his early work with the gay writer Noel Coward on Brief Encounter, to the homoerotic subtext of Lawrence of Arabia, Lean's films offer rich subtext and sometimes explored some progressive ideas that were unexpected for the time. I myself am a huge fan of Lean's work, particularly Lawrence of Arabia, which I consider what you kids today would call one of the GOATs, despite it being a film filled with camels. Unless camel is a cool young person acronym that I am unaware of. Cool, absolutely, miraculously, extremely, legit? I don't know. I guess it's time for me to sign up for my AARP card. You can find this video and dozens of other high-production originals on Nebula, a video streaming platform built by and for creators. And of course, I'm contractually obligated to tell you that subscribers get a special feed to listen to this show ad-free. Go to nebula.tv/500opentabs and get 40% off an annual subscription. By signing up, you can support other creators like Lindsay Ellis, Princess Weeks, and many more. Remember, sign up at nebula.tv/500opentabs and help us become the camels of the podcast world.
Anyway, what do you have for me?
Okay.
That you wouldn't let me see in the document.
That I wouldn't let you see in the document. Yes, just so people know, last time I put we have a doc that we share where we keep all the links in before we start for all the show notes. And Hannah had looked at the title of the last episode. It's true. It was by accident. So I was like, I'm not going to do that this time. So I would normally write the title of the article, I wrote, what did I say?
In all caps, you wrote, you don't get to read this in advance, Hannah.
So I would like you to have your phone nearby because this is going to be something where I'm going to be texting you a bunch of random stuff. Yes. Okay. My tab is in fact a listener email that I decided to expand upon.
Oh, this is the second time you've done this, huh?
This is the second time. Unfortunately, it's not Nico from Riverside, although shout out to Nico. Thank you for the last time. Nico did send us another article, which I thought was cool, that I told you to not read because I saw it before you did.
Yeah,
but TBD on that one. You didn't, thankfully. But this email came from Karen in Renton, Washington.
Okay.
And Karen sent us this fantastic article. And you ready for the title?
Absolutely.
Testicular Tanuki Tales, Japanese folk humor for children with Ribald satirical twist.
There's so many syllables in there.
I'm going to explain it.
This is like it's like reading the moon hoax papers. So many words.
So many words. This actually did spark my interest somewhat. It's nothing to do with the moon hoax, but you'll understand the places in which I thought it was similar. So this is not a joke. It comes from a blog from Princeton University, and it is this fantastic analysis. I don't say this lightly. It really is a very good analysis of a series of prints and gives them all context, both culturally and historically, so you can understand what it's about. And I was really tempted to just read the whole article, like just on the air, but I decided that I should actually just do my job. So
that's all podcasts are. Just read it.
Yeah, just reading somebody else's work.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, are you familiar with what a Tanuki is?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. Okay. So I'm going to send you a couple of pictures of Tanukis. Why don't you go describe to the audience what Tanukis look like?
Oh, they kind of look like little raccoon bears. They're fluffy.
Okay, yeah.
They've got like rounded ears. Their eyes are really close together and they look like they're in a constant state of panic.
Yeah. So they're actually known as they kind of call them the raccoon dog. They're Japanese.
They're cute.
That's a point of contention because technically, apparently, they're neither a dog nor a raccoon. They're somewhere in between.
Weird.
So people make an argument that they're technically like their own thing. And I tried to read about the weird genetic code, Jurassic Park DNA, something or other sequencing about it. And I was like, I don't understand what any of this means. And I'm confused. So whatever. Tanuki is its own thing.
I want to go to Tanuki Park instead of Jurassic Park. Gigantic.
Wait till you hear the rest of this tab. You're going to absolutely want to go to Tanuki Park.
There's a park. Okay. All right.
No, there's no real park. But I just mean like the more you learn about Tanuki, you're going to be really excited.
Okay.
So Tanuki are mostly nocturnal. And when they speak, they sound like domesticated cats, apparently.
Annoying?
They are predominantly monogamous and typically live for about 7 to 8 years.
I want one.
To recap, a Tanuki is a raccoon dog that meows like a cat, marries its high school sweetheart, and dies at 8.
Look, I don't want no slut Tanukis, okay? I don't want some loose Tanuki. Is that how you say it?
Loose Tanuki?
Loose. I need a monogamous, dedicated Tanuki, all right? Straight. I'm just kidding.
So, Tanuki are important figures in Japanese folklore. They're known as mischievous shapeshifters that are often portrayed with comically large, stretched out scrotums.
Dude, you know what this reminds me of? And yes,
the thing you messaged me last night?
Yeah, sorry about all those chaotic memes I sent you. I looked back over them and I was like...
perfect. No, it was really funny. I wanted to respond to you because I was like, oh my God, you don't even know. Just so you guys know, Hannah sent me like an AI video of Yoshi from Mario Brothers with ball sacks. Look at giant balls. That ties into this tab.
Weird. We're on the same wavelength. And then you looked at it right before bed. And that made me really happy. I was like, I hope this is the last thing he sees before he goes to sleep.
It was.
But this reminds me of my pet rats. That's a whole different story, but I had a ton of pet rats at one point in my life. And the male rats, once they're comfortable with you, they just let their ball sack out. And it's gigantic. Like if it were on a human, they'd be like cantaloupe sized. And my rat, I had a rat named Rasputin, and Rasputin had gigantic balls.
Much like the real Rasputin, whipped his balls out everywhere he went.
He did. Yeah, he really did. So my rat Rasputin, I would call his name, go Rasputin, and he'd run up my arm, dragging his balls along with him all the way up my arm, and then he'd nestle himself right here in my like cleavage.
Clavicle?
No, inside my cleavage.
Oh, inside your cleavage.
And I remember just being like, I could just feel that ball sack. This story was way cuter in my head. Okay. So that's what that reminded me of. So anyway, Tanukis and the huge balls.
But they're huge balls. And their nut sacks are not just for show. They're also magic. So within folklore and within the art of a lot of Japanese prints, they will use them as parachutes, chairs, umbrellas, backpacks, blankets, weapons, hats, capes, and countless other useful accessories.
Chairs? They're built in. I'm so excited.
You have no idea what you're in for right now.
I might be making a lot of like insane noises, by the way.
And according to everything I've read, this isn't some like, oh, you shouldn't laugh at other cultural traditions and be insensitive. The Japanese are like fully in on it, and they're like, dude, balls are funny as hell, and those weird raccoon dogs that talk like cats have huge balls, and like we love this.
We're going with it.
We're going with it. And furthermore,
love that.
Their testicles symbolize good fortune and wealth.
I mean, yeah.
So the Japanese term I'll tell you. So the Japanese term kintama, which means golden balls, plays into this. The most popular theory as to why is championed by a researcher named Shigeo Uwaku, who, and the theory goes that back in the Edo period, metal workers in Kanazawa Prefecture used to make gold leaf sheets by putting the gold between Tanuki skin to hammer it flat.
What?
Yeah. And because the skin was so durable, it allowed them to stretch the metal unbelievably thin.
So they got good skin.
They got great skin. They were just hammering on it, and it was helping them just, kind of like...
would stretch over a door real nice, right?
Stretch over a door, exactly. It could have been Tanuki balls that were on the door that you were mentioning in the previous tab.
Probably.
And so basically over time, this all got muddled up, and like people were making jokes, and eventually Tanuki balls became associated with gold and then being rich.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense. Like that's the logical next step.
It sounds like something we would have come up with if we were there at the same time. So it's now associated.
History would be so much more full of dumb ball jokes if we had been back then.
It's now a sign of good luck and prosperity, and many shops in Japan will just have a Tanuki with giant balls outside, and it's cool as hell. So here we go. Why don't you describe this to the people who are listening?
Okay, I need a minute. Okay, so it's almost like the style of a garden gnome. It's like a little ceramic figure, but it's got it's just this little bear thing holding a frog, sitting on its own balls, but it also has fully formed boobs. I don't know, man.
It's got
cute.
A giant hat.
This isn't cute. Oh, here's another one. Oh! Oh! Okay, so this one looks like it has just seen someone get shot. His eyes are huge and wide, and its mouth is gaping open. It's made of wood. It has a big old hat on. Still has those boobs. And this time, it looks like it doesn't even have legs. It just has balls. So, wow. Yep.
Oh, we're just beginning, Hannah. We're just beginning.
No. Oh, no. Karen, this is such a good tab. Oh, this one has a penis, too, by the way. I didn't see that. I was too focused on the balls. Oh, he's got... Wow. The eyes, man.
The eyes are particularly funny with that one. So,
yeah.
Fun fact. I know that you know a special Tanuki already. You want to take a guess as to who it is?
No.
Tanuki Tom Nook.
That capitalist bastard. He's a Tanuki?
So I didn't get like proper confirmation from I don't there's no like official like Nintendo stance on this, but I did read somewhere that the theory is that Tom Nook's Nook Inc.'s logo are leaves. Remember?
Oh yeah.
And so the theory is that that's all related to this. It's like leaves, Tanuki, wealth, prosperity, all that kind of stuff. So
that guy does need to have pretty big balls to ask for as much money as he does for me to just live on that island.
Listen, next time, I know that you avoid your island because you're afraid of all the shame and guilt of everyone being mad at you, but just be careful. If you don't pay your bells, you don't know what Tom Nook's packing under those cargo shorts and what he might do to you if you don't fall into line.
Just bounce up to me on those on his giant balls. My head is so messed up right now with what I'm hearing. Like, Mel Gibson is Australian. Tom Nook has big old balls. I'm looking at something that should be cute, but it's not.
As I always say, it's going to get crazier. It's going to get crazier. So
Good.
The article that Karen sent us concerns a couple of specific prints that were made during the Meiji era, which was from 1868 to 1912. Now,
okay.
Until this point, Japan had very famously cut itself off from the rest of the world in an attempt to resist colonization by Western powers. I'm sure you already know about this. Many people know about this.
Yeah.
And when Emperor Meiji took over in 1868 and consolidated power, he was like, nope, no more. He flung the doors open of Japan to everybody and went hard in an attempt to modernize the country and make it a world power. You know, they embraced modernity. They were ordering all kinds of packages from Amazon. Everyone got into TikTok. They stopped wearing ankle socks. They're like, we're the cool new young kids now.
They kept telling everybody that parting your hair on the side makes you look old and dumb. And it,
Exactly.
Really...
They got rid of all their skinny jeans. They just threw them into the water. They burned them. They started using cool terms. Anyway, so this period is known very famously as the Meiji Restoration.
Yeah,
and I don't know how much you know about it, but it's a legitimately fascinating topic. There's like a billion podcasts about this. I think Dan Carlin did like a 1 billion-part series, as he always does, for Hardcore History about it.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting period in time to learn about. And as far as like just, Western sort of points of reference that we can use, the most famous example is, do you guys remember, I don't know if you remember The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, where he was like
It's been so long.
He was like the Civil War soldier that gets called back to Japan. He gets commissioned to come like teach them about. So it's a decent. It's like from 2003, 4, 5, somewhere around there. It's very it's from the white perspective.
They all are.
It's a decent flick, but like it's got some problems. And I did remember reading an interesting piece of criticism about that film that went beyond just like Tom Cruise white, center of narrative, which is sort of your obvious one. But it was an interesting criticism of romanticizing the samurai class and how the samurai were like, because they were basically pushed to the side and they were like, you're not part of this anymore. And the samurai were like, we're all about history and like you're giving up on your old terms. But they were like, that was also because they liked the idea that they were sort of the class that was in charge and suddenly their station in life was being being challenged. And anyway, it's just an interesting way to like look into it and read in different things about it. That's sort of all what's happening here.
Yeah.
It's very, very much worth into reading. I've mentioned Japanese history on here before. It's all really cool. And like any non-Western history, it's very interesting and we don't ever learn about it. So you kind of have to take it upon yourself to read. But the stories are really cool.
And you have to go deep sometimes to not have a white perspective or at least a Western perspective on it.
Exactly. Anyway. So anyway, at this point, like I said, Japan's modernizing, crazy fast. Tom Cruise is coming in all drunk and trying to regain his honor and on all these soldiers and how to kill these pesky samurai, but he gets captured because he's bad at his job. And as always is the case in every example of countries trying to modernize too quickly, a lot of people, mainly the people who are not part of like the aristocracy and the rich class, are like, dude, what the hell? I got whiplash.
Right. Right.
They're just like, what? Bro, I don't have a bunch of money. This is not awesome. We don't like this. What are you doing? I
just want to farm. I don't know. What are we doing?
And it's always the people with money who are the ones who are super into it and they care about it.
Of course.
And like you said, they're farmers. A lot of them are just like, dude, I'm up in Shingo trying to I'm trying to tend to my garlic farm. What's all this riffraff about steam engines?
Well, it's interesting because you know what does a really good job of, have you ever read Game of Thrones?
Nope.
It does a great job showing what it's like from like a peasant's perspective, where they'll just be like doing their work and be like, oh, there's a new king. Okay, whatever. And they'll just get back to their work because they don't care. As long as things stay relatively the same, it's like, they're so far disconnected that it's like, and no, Game of Thrones is not real, but it is based on actual.
No, it's medieval. The idea is that like a lot of these times, these kings, kind of like you're talking about, or whatever, kingdoms or governments, they end up implementing like economic reforms that make a lot of money for the state, but they don't necessarily implement like social reforms where that money gets distributed or sort of reinvested into the communities that they're serving.
Right.
So you end up having these like bigger and bigger divides. That wasn't necessarily the case, I think, in Japan at this time, but that does at least initially end up being like, well, whatever, cool, there's a steam engine. What do I care?
Yeah. I just want to farm my rice paddy and let's move on with this.
And so people are upset and they stage a revolt, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Of course not. Much like you and I, they make snarky cartoons about how things are dumb, and they also draw animals with insanely gigantic balls, shape-shifting into stuff.
Gosh.
But political.
No, there's no... Look, that was an excuse.
Yeah.
Wait. I love this.
Now, we're going to be laughing about these for the next few minutes. but which we're meant to be doing. We're meant to laugh at this. That's the function of them. But I just want to say up front how much I love these prints and how much I legitimately admire them, because you know what it made me think of was a couple episodes ago when we had Miles on and we were talking about the lioness upon the cheese grater.
Yeah.
And we were all laughing about like how people tend to assign this sort of like nobility to things throughout history,
like
and being like very
reverence.
serious. Yeah, reverence for them, as if people in the past didn't have a sense of humor.
And as if they weren't dirtbags like us. Like
exactly, yeah.
We've been like this for as long as we've existed.
Yeah.
Some of the oldest art is pictures of penises.
Right. Or what was it? Woman farts was the one that Miles brought up.
Yeah.
The oldest stories.
The oldest joke is about a lady farting. Yeah.
So
we're so dumb.
We're so dumb. And I say this with all sincerity. If my legacy would have been to make something as awesome as some of these prints, and somebody would like read this like 150 years later, I will have considered my artistic career a success.
Oh, yeah. Same.
So,
agreed.
Woodblock print artists of this period rose to some prominence, working in a genre for young audiences known as omacha-e, which were called toy prints. I apologize for the pronunciation if it's not correct. These cheap, usually single sheet woodblock prints were ostensibly for kids, but had crossover appeal for people of all ages. And like the magazine tabloids of today, they claim to share the latest knowledge or gossip about any given subject, thus the title of these prints. So we're going to be talking about two specific prints. One is called The Latest Tanuki Entertainments, and the second one is Compendium of the Latest Tanuki Amusements. And both of these prints, published a year apart, depict an exhaustive series of variations on the theme of Tanuki Kintama transformations.
Oh, okay. All right.
So here's the first print. And just let it wash over you for a second. We're going to get into the specifics of all of this, but just tell everybody this is a reaction video. So explain to everybody what you're looking at. Obviously on the video version, people will see it on screen, but for people who are listening.
Oh, no. Oh, are these all balls? Is this all balls?
Yes.
This is all balls. Okay. So I'm looking at here's what I'm looking at. It's like it looks like a grid with a bunch of different pictures, different cartoons, and in each one, it's like a comic strip, but each one it has these guys doing something different with their balls, or even just the skin, like the scrotum. Like this one, he's using it as a hot air balloon. What looks like a hot air balloon. This one is using his as it looks like a trumpet. This one's just got one big ball hanging out of his pants, and he's banging it like a drum. This one he's using it as a shawl. He just like has it around his. And these are all Tanuki. Oh, what's going on? Oh, I don't even know how to describe that one. This one's flung it over his shoulder, and he's like prancing away with it. Some of these I don't even know. This one has like. His balls have legs? Like separate from his own? Oh, this one's just wow. This one's trying to shove his ball sack into a barrel. It's massive. Oh, he's using it as a blanket. Oh, a koi pond. They've stretched this balls out and filled it with water and fish.
Yep,
I have whiplash. These are beautiful drawings.
I knew you'd be speechless.
Dude, the colors, artistically, these are amazing, and it's all balls. It's all a kite. This one's using them as a kite. Okay. Continue.
So remember, so the first print, like I said, it's Latest Tanuki Entertainments. The artist is Kobayashi Aijiro, and it's from 1884. So at first glance, you'd think, LOL, it's a bunch of Tanuki balls, and it's hilarious, which it is. But there's actually more going on here.
Explain.
So I will. So the thing is, this literally is like the Simpsons episode, like a Simpsons episode of its day. Because it's making homages to past arts and artists while simultaneously skewering the political and upper classes.
Awesome. Okay.
So the artistic inspiration for these panels come from an artist named Utagawa Kuniyoshi, who lived from 1798 to 1861, a renowned Edo period woodblock artist who popularized testicular Tanuki transformations, coming up with numerous variations on the theme. So the first image I'm going to show you, this is from the artist who was from like about 100 years before, from the Edo period, from Kuniyoshi.
Oh, wow. What is going on? Oh!
So let me explain this one while you look at it.
I don't know what is happening. Okay, please explain.
The image is a play on the Zen Buddhist koan, "How do you catch a catfish with a gourd?" And also the belief that a giant mythological catfish thought to cause earthquakes under the islands of Japan could only be controlled with the god Kashima if he placed a giant rock on its head to suppress it. So in Kuniyoshi's print, the Tanuki is placing its giant ball sack on the head of the catfish to stop earthquakes from coming and saving the day.
We got to implement this in California.
I agree. So
why is he also standing on top of a different Tanuki? He's just like using him as a surfboard.
I think they're just helping each other out. They're just like, I need to be like a stepladder of some sort because this catfish is so big. So in two of the panels of our first print of the latest Tanuki entertainments.
Yeah.
If you look at it.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to figure out what this one was. It looks like he's trying to shove some...
He's putting the ball sacks on top of the catfish. So they're trying to stop the earthquakes. So it's a reference to that like old Buddhist little story.
And there's another one. Wow. This has like 5 layers of cultural, like... Right? You can't even... I would never understand.
So the artist is literally, he's giving a shout out to like the olden days. Or so when I think of Simpsons, I think of like a lot of those old episodes would give references to like old movies and stuff as a way of like the visual reference point or the visual language that people would be familiar with.
Or even just like the couch scene using different animations that pay homage to, you know.
That little template. So there's more references in Kuniyoshi's work throughout this print, but critically to the piece are the clothing that a lot of these Tanuki are wearing. Kobayashi is dressing them in Western garb, which implies they're members of the upper and political classes, and they have fancy jobs or have traveled abroad and are taking on the costumes of Westerners. So if you look at, you actually pointed out a couple of them specifically when you were looking.
Yeah.
The one with the guy slung over his shoulder with the ball sack.
Yeah.
That's meant to be a postman with his with the hat and the outfit, and he's wearing in the pants.
Oh, yeah.
And then the guy with the ball sack on the drums.
Yeah, that's my favorite one, I think.
He's from like a Western style marching band. And then the one with the shawl, also wearing like a cool Western hat. That's just like a fancy person. So these wood prints are essentially taking aim and clowning on these people. And they're like, oh, cool, you're a postman? Have fun slinging your ball sack post office bag over your shoulder. Oh, you're a drummer in a Western style band? How about you drum on these nuts?
I'm speechless.
Amazing.
I just saw another one, and it's this one is a boat. They made a boat out of the balls, and they're sailing away on it.
So these are just like hilarious and awesome and a million times smarter and funnier than Young Sheldon, which is, I know, your favorite show of all time, but this is much funnier.
I can't even handle that as a joke. That is, even the thought of someone maybe taking that seriously makes me want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to unalive myself. Okay.
I understand. Anyway, so that first piece, it's a total of 36 different little panels. So it is kind of, again, I as I always like to do on this show, I always mention shout outs to our, lineage or the people that came before us. So it's like you said, this is sort of like the comic artist of its day.
It is. But it goes so far back, like way further back than anything.
It's satire.
Western. Yeah. It's satire. Like, it's cartoonish. It's about balls,
It's about balls. That's the most important thing.
That is the most. It's all I can kind of only see that.
I think that's what you're meant to.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one more. Okay, so just a couple quick little references. So there's this little trio, like you said. There's the boat. There's the person with what did you say? He was like fishing with them.
Yeah, like a fishing net made of ball skin.
Made of ball skin. So this goes back to Kuniyoshi. So this is the print that it's referencing. That is a heightened version of this, where it looks like 4 of them together, or 4 of these Tanukis together have one giant ball sack that they're fishing with, but it's from the Edo period, so it's like the previous period of it.
This is my favorite one so far. They have all taken out their shared ball sack and made a huge fishing net out of it. I'll never do that. I'll never be as how come I
We'll never
didn't
top
do this? I'll never top this. Oh, what's this one?
This one is.
Oh my gosh! What is happening?
It's raining, so they're just covering their heads as a way to stay dry.
Is it one gigantic ball set? Oh no, they each have their own gigantic. Okay. Wow. I like how there's like hair on them too. Like these aren't like cutesy. Like they're hairy.
They're hairy. Okay, so that's the first print that's covered in this article.
Okay,
so next up is Compendium of the Latest Tanuki Amusements by Kuniaki from 1883. This one, we'll get into the specific panels, but why don't you explain the difference between this one and the previous one for people who are listening? Okay.
First of all, different art style, but also, interesting. They're a little bit more animalistic. Like these guys are actually shaped like animals. The other ones were like humans with Tanuki heads. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's riding his balls like a bike. Okay,
unicycle.
I gotta take a second to absorb. Hold on. Okay.
So just for people listening, both of these have, they basically have like three colors. Primarily, it's like a yellow, blue, and a red, more or less. But the second print, what's interesting about it is that I think it's funny because it's less obvious that it's meant to be skewering something. Yeah. They looks like somewhat more traditional, closer to like the reference from the previous one from the Edo.
Almost, yeah.
They look more like scenes, like almost like storyboards or something, or like proper, scenic illustrations rather than just like one-off quick graphic drawings. It looks much more deadpan, which I think makes it much more funny.
I think because you kind of. It's like regular everyday stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, I just got to use this as my bike, and it's like it has a calm. It's not so like extreme, you know what I mean? It's not like look at this kite made out of balls. It's like this is my ball sack bike, and I'm going to work. That's the vibe I get. Like. Mm-hmm.
So let's focus on the one panel, which is actually the one I was going to talk about that you brought up, which bike? Remember, it's a unicycle. So explain it to everybody.
So there's this Tanuki, and he's wearing what looks like a smoking jacket, and some nice white slacks, and he is operating a unicycle made of his ball sack, going down a country road, and it's nice clear skies. There's some nice bushes in the background.
There's a flag in the background.
There's a flag that has some writing on it.
So apparently, the red flag on the background of this particular scene, it says. Gianiku, which means beef. So the Tanuki critically is he's wearing Western style clothing, and he's on this unicycle, and he's going to get beef theoretically.
Because Westerners love beef.
Beef, and for what critically is like most common people would have not been able to afford beef at all at this time. So especially again, it's this thing where, so they're kind of making fun of. Like, oh, look at this dumbass, like, riding his unicycle on his ball is going to get, like, a hamburger. Screw this guy.
Give me a second. I'll never top this. In my whole career, I'll never top it.
We can just give up. We have to just give up. It's over.
I'm retiring. I'm just going to fully go into podcasting now. No more art for me. It's already been done.
It's been done.
I'm yelling a lot today.
So this one's my favorite.
Okay.
And
okay. What is okay. So this is a guy. Okay. This is a Tanuki, and he's posing for a photo, but it looks like he's using his ball sack as something to lean on, like as a prop, as he like poses. And then there's the cameraman, Tanuki, and he has draped... those old-timey cameras with you to put the cloth over your head? Yep. He has delicately draped his balls over his head so he can block the light from the photo when he takes the photo. and he's taking a photo. This is beautiful. And the whole air is like, look at me. I'm fancy enough to have a photo taken. And yeah, I this is perfect. This is perfect.
That is the exact reaction I was hoping to get from you.
Okay, go on. You have to go on. I can't stop laughing. I'm so sweaty. I'm brushing my hair.
The ball sack camera has broken you.
It broke me for sure.
Listen, these are two of the greatest pieces of art I've ever seen in my life. I will never not remember these.
Ever. I mean, like.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
You can't. I already said this, but you can't top this. Like.
So, lastly, so this article sort of goes a little bit more in depth into this. But again, shout out to our comic ancestors. But lastly, I wanted to briefly discuss Tanuki train legends because
there's trains in this?
There were train boys here.
Love trains.
I'm a train boy, Janice. There's no artwork for this, but this is just part of the Tanuki Meiji period. So
I love a train.
I know you do. So in many parts of Japan during the Meiji period, stories emerged about train operators who claimed to hear the whistle of oncoming trains, only to find that the train would suddenly disappear in the moment of contact. And later when they went to investigate, there were almost invariably one or more dead Tanuki on the tracks.
Oh.
People essentially, and these stories continued for a while, like well into the 50s, I think almost is what I was reading. And so they were just like, they're tricksters. They're just making the sound of other trains come in to like throw off the train operators. And they sort of became like this symbol of resistance. But according to Michael Dillon Foster, who's a professor of Japanese at UC Davis, there are many allegorical interpretations of the tale, from industry versus the environment to the foreign versus the native.
I was going to say that feels like old school versus new, like
exactly
the old ways versus this new technological advance that people aren't comfortable with yet.
These tales can be read as the forces of traditional Japanese views taking a stand through the use of deception and Tanuki magical powers of old against the forces of industrial change and modernity, and ultimately, tragically failing. That the Tanuki is overpowered and killed by the train symbolizes not just the futility of opposing the advent of steam trains and industrialization, but indicates the acceptance of that futility, enshrining it in a folk tale.
I feel that.
Yeah,
I don't
very
know
much
why,
so.
But like,
you know exactly why. I'll give you one quick reference. So the American equivalent I thought of when I was reading that was do you remember the story of John Henry?
Yeah, the railroad guy, right?
Yeah, the guy who was like, there's like a digging machine that's like coal-powered or industrial, and he was like, I can dig faster than you, and he's just sort of fights it, and then he wins, but then he dies at the end of it.
Right.
Because like an embolism bursts in his head or something, yeah.
Right.
And it's like this symbolic victory of like how humanity and, people can win over machines, but still like the march of progress and of industrialization continues.
Stops.
It's sort of a similar thing. That's happening around a similar time.
It's almost like an acceptance. Like it's like I'm gonna take control of this story by being like these little testicled raccoon dudes are a symbol of our culture, and it's gonna try its best to stop the train, but it will die. And at least I have the story. At least we're in control of the story. You know what I mean? Like Also, it's like a weird acceptance, like grief. It's like grieving.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really, really fascinating. It's really interesting. And in terms of modern day parallels of what you were talking about, is the thing I kept thinking about is like the battle within our entire industry and like our mind, and every convention we go to, it's like AI versus people. Like, can you make art or is like the machine going to do it for you? And it's like, no, we're still good. So it's like about the human spirit versus the machine coming in and industrialization or technology.
Fighting. Man.
Right?
Things are about to be super different and I don't like it.
Not unless we use our ball sacks to fight the resistance.
Should I just pull my ball? No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there.
Last point. Pom Poko, which was a Studio Ghibli movie. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, long time ago. It's one of the weird ones that doesn't really get airtime or doesn't really...
So it's not directed by Miyazaki, but here's a screenshot from it.
Oh, this
now
is
you will understand what it is.
Right?
Oh, I don't remember who directed
it. And then it's his... Oh! Ball sacks!
I'll read you the summary. A community of magical shape-shifting raccoon dogs struggle to prevent their forest home from being destroyed by urban development. And a lot of places that I was reading about it, they reference it as sort of a modern example of the Tanuki. And so maybe that's one thing that we can watch one day on this imaginary watch party that we're never going to do. But
never. We
keep saying we're going to do it. But yeah. I would love to watch this movie. I think it's really exciting to see it.
Full of empty promises, you guys. I don't know if you guys know this. I think you all do, but...
Anyways, though, but a huge thank you to Karen from Renton, Washington, who at the end of her email wrote, they wrote a PS and they wrote PPS. My girlfriend has rolled her eyes so many times at me during the time I've been writing this email. On the clock, too, as my own small mischievous act. So she's keeping the spirit of sticking it to the man alive. And for that, we salute you, Karen. Thank you.
I love these raccoon dogs. They are a symbol of resistance. They are a symbol of... They are anarchists. I love them.
I know. I love them too. There are so many more pictures I was going to send you, but then eventually this podcast would just be, if someone's listening to it, they're like, it's just listening to Hannah laugh at pictures that I can't see. But for the video people, maybe we should just do like a cool slideshow at the end of the episode with just balls nonstop. Just
balls on balls on balls.
I'm just going to send you this one last one.
Okay. I want as many as you have, but
I know there are a lot. But this is the last one. This is the one from the Edo period, and it's just them like at the gym.
They're like weightlifting their.
It's leg day with balls.
It's leg day. They're weightlifting their own balls.
Okay, Eileen, I'm sorry. Just one more. This is the last one. This is the last one.
Okay, what's going on right here? Okay.
It's the shop signs. They don't have shop signs, so then they're just standing above the shop, and their balls are the signs. Yeah.
They're This is absurd. I think this is my favorite one that you've done. I think...
Don't thank me. Thank Karen.
I know, but you delivered it. Thank you, Karen.
That was... I had so much fun researching this. This is so great. And honestly, that article is fantastic. Like, it was such a great... it just contextualized it so wonderfully, and I really appreciated it.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah. Anyway, so that takes us to where we need to...
So funny.
Yeah. I knew you were going to love it. I knew you were going to have a meltdown.
I loved it. Yeah, so let's count down, or what noise
countdown, yeah, use? What do we want to do? Do we want to hear... There's no ball sack sign of something getting killed. I don't know. Drilling a hole.
A drill.
A drill.
Just...
There's not a whole lot of like super death in this one, or like explosions.
Could we mimic the sound of somebody picking up their giant ball sack and slapping it down onto something?
Okay. You could probably temp in a sound of like dough hitting the table, like someone's making a pizza. Yeah, you can substitute that like a Foley artist would.
There it is. Alyssa, we're doing
best
that,
of luck.
But yeah, also feel free to just not do that.
And if she doesn't, that's okay. Yeah, feel free to quit.
You don't have to do any of this.
You want to count us down?
Yeah. Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, close.
Gonzo.
Just smashed that tab with my...
All right. Moving on to listener emails. You're up first.
So I wish I had picked a different one.
Oh, no.
Because this is written by a child.
Oh, no. They're going to have to hear the whole ball sack episode. I'm sorry.
Well, no. Look, I know her mom. I've known her mom since I was 13. This is from my best friend Sarah's daughter. I'm not going to say her name because she's a minor. I think she's a teenager at this point. I actually don't know. I remember when she was born, and the idea that she's writing me an email makes me feel sick. And she says... Because
you feel old, not because you're grossed out by this person writing you an email. We should clarify.
Dude, I love her, all right? We go way back. I just can't believe I'm this old now. So my friends' kids are writing me emails. So, Dear Kava and Hannah, I'm the daughter of one of Hannah's childhood friends, Sarah. I've been very invested in this podcast, and I love it a lot. Y'all have made me open more tabs than I usually have. I am going to assume that this isn't the goal of the podcast. No, but...
I don't even know what the goal of this podcast is anymore, to be honest with you.
We don't know what this is.
To have a good time.
This is just us going wherever we want. Down whatever... Anyway, She says, I found out a few months ago that when something is strawberry flavored and you look on the back of the package or bottle and it says natural flavor, that means it's made of a beaver's anal gland.
What? From the moon?
Moon beavers, dude.
Moon beaver's anal gland?
It's an actual beaver's anal gland. Tastes like strawberry. Artificial strawberry flavoring. This started as an inside family joke where if anybody had a strawberry flavored anything, we say it has beaver butt juice in it.
What the shit?
People have been using this stuff for centuries, going back to Roman times, when they used it as a form of abortion. Oh.
Beaver anal gland abortion?
I don't think she's a kid anymore. I can't believe I'm having a moment. It was very weird to learn about and has scarred me forever. Fondly, S.
Okay.
Well, P.S. Keep it Josie. So, next time you eat anything strawberry, just remember that you're eating a beaver's anal gland.
Wow. What about the next time I'm eating something beaver's anal gland flavored? Am I supposed to assume that it came from a strawberry?
They use real strawberries for that. Yeah.
That's not as good. Thank you, S. That's amazing. I love it. Email number 2 is
You're speechless,
Caitlin.
Dude.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Don't know what to tell you. Email number 2 is Caitlin from San Diego. Caitlin writes, Hi, Hannah and Kaveh. I found my way here from Hannah's Instagram, and I'm loving the podcast. It makes me feel very seen, but in a good way, not in a I don't want to be perceived way.
I feel that, man.
Oh, man.
I love attention, but then when I get it, I'm like, don't look at me.
Yeah, come to our panel in San Diego. Moving on. My tab is about mud skippers, which are tropical fish that live in mangrove forests.
Oh.
I use the term fish loosely here because mud skippers are amphibious and spend up to 90% of the time out of the water, where they engage in very unfish-like activities like breathing air and walking.
What?
Mud skippers can breathe directly through the skin lining their mouths and throat, though they also sometimes store a bunch of water in their gill chambers and breathe that way. Kind of like dip, almost. Like they've got like
they
a little
got
bit of
stores.
sus in there or something. Yeah.
Sick.
They have elbows in their pectoral fins, and they use their elbows to hobble around like a person walking with crutches. Add in a pair of pelvic fins, and these fish can climb trees and scale rocks. Mud skippers also have powerful tails, which they use to skip across the water surface to avoid actually getting into the water. They can also use their tails to jump up 2 feet. Mud skippers' eyes protrude from the tops of their flat heads, and yes, they figured out how to blink. So this is where you come in. When they are not flagrantly disregarding everything that means to be a fish, mud skippers enjoy being buried in the mangrove bog.
Yeah. Yes. Beautiful.
Because their burrows will be underwater during high tide, and because the mud they made out is very low in oxygen, mud skippers embrace their prepper lifestyle. They dig burrows in a J shape so they can create an air pocket at the top of the J by bringing fresh air down to the burrow in their mouths when the tide is low. Best. Caitlin from San Diego. Yes, I will be at Comic-Con, and yes, of course, I will come say hi. Thanks, Caitlin. I can't wait to see you. What was the term you used earlier for like the mud search people that you were talking about? Mudlarkers. Yeah,
this episode has had some themes in it.
It did. Unintentionally.
So, you know where I've heard about mud skippers is from this kids' TV show that had a whole episode on it called Octonauts, I think. And the whole episode is about them climbing trees. And I remember like watching my kid watch it and be like,
what the hell?
I don't know how to process this. Are they like in between? Are they going to take over someday? I mean, it's fine if they do.
They're like whales who are reversing now. So now they're going back out. They're like, we were whales. We were normal things. We were fish. Then we went on the land. Then we went back in the water. Now we're coming back out again. It's a cycle. It takes lots of time. I just remember Muddy Mud Skipper from Ren and Stimpy, I believe.
Yeah.
From way back in the day. I think he had a song. It's been a while.
Old.
I haven't heard it. It is very old, like me.
Well, thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you, Caitlin. We look forward to seeing you at San Diego, which, in case we haven't already mentioned it 50 times in this episode and the previous ones, we will be in San Diego at San Diego Comic-Con in Artist Alley, BB01 and 02 by the Tower T-shirts. Again, hopefully that'll be there. Otherwise, we've been lying to everybody all this time. Yeah. And then when they get there, they're going to be like, actually, Tower of T-shirts is on the opposite side of the convention floor. And we like led them all astray.
Well, here's the thing I will say. There are 2 towers of t-shirts, I realized. So.
Oh, are there?
Yeah, I passed by the other one last year.
I see what
and
you're
was
saying.
like,
yeah.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings, the beloved Lord of the Rings book.
Yes, not the other 2 towers.
Not the other ones.
Yeah.
So I got aggressive. But yeah, if you want to send us your own open tabs, you can email us at 500opentabs@gmail.com, the number 500. And did you want to do the voice memo?
Sure. Yeah. We were thinking if you guys, we're going to try this. No one's submitted anything yet, but if you're inclined to send us a voice memo, like letting us know, it'd be fun to hear your voice and sort of give us all the information. But again, remember, it's just a quick blurb, what you learned. Send us the link and let us know where you're from, and then we'll take it from there. Additionally, Patreon. Watch this on YouTube. Follow the Discord. Do 500 Open Roads.
Follow the link tree in our Instagram, and there's all these things are going to be there, and they're going to be in the episode notes too.
Yes. Real quick about Comic-Con, we're going to have an exclusive thing.
Oh yeah.
That hopefully we still haven't finished it, but at the time of the recording, but it should be good. We'll see. We're gonna have a very insane thing that we're gonna post pictures of.
It's insane.
Truly nuts.
Like I don't know how we made this happen.
We made it with the help of our friends Joe and Alyssa, who we're gonna give a shout out on this episode as well, because we have a wonderful team of fantastic people who are helping us out. Thank you, Joe and Alyssa. You guys rock.
We're lucky.
You truly are. Hashtag blessed.
Oh, buy my book.
Buy my
blessed.
book first.
Buy his book first. Buy 3 of his books.
Buy 4 of Hannah's.
I only have 1, but you could buy 4 of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Pre-order my book.
Fight them against each
out
other.
October 8th. They can, and they will.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because there's a part in the book where I'm fighting a doppelganger version of myself, and I have me in a headlock.
Awesome.
Anyway. So they kind of do fight each other. So yeah, I got Cat People by Hannah Hillam. It's on all the book places. And
wonderful. Yeah. I think that about wraps it up. Thank you, Hannah, for finishing up your story. That was a wonderful
Thank
time.
you for yours. It truly enlightened me. I'm not kidding.
Anyway, everybody, keep it Josie, and we'll see you next week.
Keep it Josie. Bye.